This is TWIS, This Week in Science episode number 552, recorded on Wednesday, February 3rd, 2016. Can you dig it? Hey everyone, I am Dr. Kiki, and on tonight's show, This Week in Science is going to fill your head with some cooties, corvids, and a rocky interview. But first...
Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. The whirling dervishes of modern media have been spinning and transfixing the attention of millions for so long that for most Americans, it is quite possible that if it isn't on television or in the trending news section of an on-the-line browser portal, it might as well not exist. And we here at This Week in Science get that. We get it. We understand that we could reach a greater audience with cat videos. We know there's a huge audience for diet, beauty, and sports team ball tips. Which new gadget has more mega whatsits or pixie flops? How can I invest with confidence while not knowing anything about what goes on at the companies I'm investing in? Oh wait, there's somebody in a suit saying XYZ Corp has a potential liquidity upside based on its initial earnings loss increase. I guess I'll bet my 401k on that pony. We could do all these sorts of shows, we simply choose not to. Because to us, it's worse than simply not doing anything, and not as interesting or informative as This Week in Science. Coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind I can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to Kirsten and Blair.
And good science to you, Justin, Blair, and everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science. And we have done it. We're back again. It's February. Can you believe it? February. We had International Zebra Day. And Groundhog's Day was yesterday, which I have to say...
I didn't get the word.
The statistics and the probability behind that, I don't think that experiment has been properly thought out. There's no control group. Seriously.
It's still ongoing.
Where's your groundhog control group? Who's your...
Right.
What?
The study's still ongoing, but I never got word. Did the groundhog see a shadow? Not see a shadow. Is it going to be spring? It's always cold there anyway.
The groundhogs did not see his shadow, and it's supposed to be an early spring.
Oh.
Or so it goes.
Is that how it works?
According to
That's I don't know if that's properly peer reviewed.
I think you would, if you didn't see your shadow, that would mean it was still cloudy and it wasn't going to be I don't understand.
Yes, was that study reviewed by a group of that groundhog's peers? Perhaps some other rodents.
More rodents. We've got rodents of unusual size who are peer reviewing this one.
Those are capybaras, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. In the fire swamps. Anyway, groundhogs, not scientifically peer reviewed, you guys, but we like to celebrate it every year. But beyond that, we do have the science here. We've got peer-reviewed science that we're talking about, and we're going to bring you lots of fun stories. I've got stories about editing people, baby bugs, and reducing carbons. Let's do that. And then we also have an interview in the second half of the show with Dr. Daniel Hummer, who is from the Deep Carbon Observatory, and he's going to talk to us about a new effort to find minerals on planet Earth. Pretty cool stuff. Justin, what do you have for us?
I've got just a few stories this week. I've got Peak Ocean and why it's okay if Superman gives you the once-over.
That's just like the once-over, the up and down.
That's the X-ray vision once-over, I'm going to guess.
Yes, with the X-ray vision eyes. Right, it's all right. No need to panic.
Good
that might
gracious.
be the whole story right there.
Blair, what did you bring?
Oh, I brought Corvids, climate change, and how your kitchen is making you fat.
Oh, dear. First it was waiters, and now it's kitchens.
Yeah.
But if you were to
What are we
choose
gonna
one
do?
room of the house that's making you fatter, I suppose
That's the one. Yeah.
That's the one you would want it to be
That
coming
would-
from.
Appropriate, yes.
No.
All right, you guys, let's dive into the science here. Science! and there's some crazy, awesome science happening in England. This is our CRISPR alert. CRISPR alert, CRISPR alert.
This week in CRISPR.
Yeah.
You got to work on this.
Researchers at the Human Fertilization and Embryology Authority, HFEA, have been approved. It's been approved by them to use CRISPR-Cas9, the system for genetic editing that we've been talking a lot about lately, to edit human embryos. Now, some people are going to think this is a hugely controversial thing. I honestly don't think this is a hugely controversial thing. The research is going to be conducted by Kathy Nikan. She has been researching human development for a decade, more than a decade. She is an expert in this field. She applied to this Fertilization and Embryology Authority for this license because what she wants to do is basically cut out specific genes that she thinks, or that many people in human development science think are responsible for the development of humans. From blastocyst through embryo, what are the things that are important, that control the growth of cells, the differentiation of the cells, the movement of something that seems just like a little ball of blastocysts of nothing into something that we can recognize as human. How does that happen? And these are the questions that she wants to ask. And the research authority has granted her permission. So it's governed. She's, not just going to be letting embryos grow into full-fledged humans with only part of a genome. That's not the kind of mad science that's going to be happening here. This is proper science, and she's going to be restricting her work to the first part of the cycle. So the embryos will not be allowed to. I believe they're not going to be allowed to grow for any more than 7 or 8 days. They will be 7 days. So they're going to be only allowed to. They'll be fertilized, they will be CRISPRized, and then they will grow for 7 days. The researchers will determine what happened, what didn't happen, what cell signaling cascades were turned on or what were not turned on, and really start to get a better idea of how humans work.
Right. And of course, those who oppose this research taking place, stop listening to you at the word embryo.
I know, we're probably not even talking to any of them anymore.
Yeah, no, it's not our audience, but I mean, this is no matter what precautions or steps or things that are being put in place that are saying this isn't going to be that, it won't matter.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, so if we want to use CRISPR for the awesome things that we can use it for, if we want to change the course of lives that could have really negative things happen to them, we could fix these things before the fetus starts to develop. If we can figure out a way to do that, this will all be worth it. And this is how you science. This is how we get there. So getting the permission to start this research is a huge stride that I actually wasn't really expecting to see yet. I think this is really exciting news because we're going to be able to move much faster towards using this for good.
Absolutely, and I think also sort of your point, but I look forward to a stage where they've learned about how these things are created in development, how disease begins to grow, and take sort of the down cast from that, and actually work on treatments for somebody who is already at adulthood, say, and finding ways to do manipulations once the disease has actually, because I think this is going to be much easier.
Are important.
And it's also going to be much easier for that progress, I think, to take place because you know it's sort of like that test that they offer that can tell you whether a child may or may not have Down syndrome, and it's very invasive and it's all this and that, and people are scared of the test itself. Doing anything where you're genetically modifying an unborn child is going to be exceedingly hard for any parent to agree to even if there is a preponderance of scientific evidence that says this will be helpful. So being able to collect this data and then apply it to somebody who's an adult and has perhaps one of these genetic diseases that's taken root.
Yeah.
That's, I think, where it's really the most applicable. But this is where you learn about it. This is where you learn how to do this.
This is where we learn how to do it, exactly, and how things work. And meanwhile, in the United States, we have the National Academy of Sciences said to researchers, go ahead and please try and make embryos from 3 parents to treat mitochondrial disease. Because there are genetic situations in which you can remove the nucleus of an egg, the mitochondria remain behind, and then insert the genetic material from a woman whose mitochondria would be compromised genetically. And then you fertilize it with the sperm of the father and then implant it via IVF. It has officially 3 parents. The National Academy of Sciences said, yes, do it. This sounds great. Food and Drug Administration said, nah. So, United States still got some work to go, and that's not even editing. That's not even editing, but still. Yes, the Food and Drug Administration said there's legal language places that you're not even allowed to think like that. So just stop your thinking right now. Okay. But anyway, moving on. How about the birth of babies? Let's experiment on babies while they're being born.
It's the most magnificent, beautiful thing you could ever witness.
Yeah, and a few researchers went, hey, babies, let's experiment on them while they're being born. That's going to be awesome. No, that's not what they said. What they said, we have discussed the difference between the microbiomes of children born by C-section and those born vaginally on past shows. Those born with C-section did not have the same growth of a microbiome. Their skin and gastrointestinal tract, mouths, do not have the same diversity of bacteria, the same populations as those babies born vaginally. So guess what researchers did? They took a very, very, very small sample. I mean, I'm talking it wasn't even like 10 babies. They took like 4 babies. There were 11 C-section babies. 4 of them got rubbed down with vaginal secretions from their mothers. So there was a little swab that was inserted into the mother for an hour before the C-section was scheduled. Baby was C-sectioned out of the abdomen, and then they rubbed it down. Lo and behold, comparing the C-section swabbed babies to unswabbed babies, massive difference. Unswabbed babies did not have much. Over 30 days, their microbiome did not grow substantially. Those swabbed, not much different from those babies born vaginally.
Wow.
So, yeah, the big difference was from the anal swabs, so that indicates that there are some gastrointestinal microbiotic scenarios. Something's not playing out the same, and they don't know what that is. And needless to say, super, super, super small sample size. This is 18 babies. Tops for all the whole experiment, 18 babies. That's not a lot of babies. But this is proof of concept, which is pretty
exactly.
cool.
Yeah. Start swabbing, everybody.
It also seems like you would, they were giving them like lotion rub down, because this seems like it would have to be like you to be I'm going to try to say this in the only way I can possibly conceive of. You'd basically want the babies to be huffing vaginal fluid for it to affect the microbiome in the gut and
and that's not what they were able to do.
Right. So it seems like they would need some sort of, how do you give a baby a pill? Like, I don't know, or some sort of formula that they make.
Suppository. Right?
Yeah. Or more of a suppository. Yeah.
Get up far enough, because you want it through the whole tract. This would have to be some sort of you'd have to create like a formula,
right?
Thing,
but the big thing is, if we're even getting closer to the natural populating of the microbiome, what this potentially means is that that health issues there's been correlations between people born C-section and later life health issues that could be microbiome related. This is the kind of thing that could potentially prevent lifelong health issues. So this is if all it is a swab, that's a great easy way to get about doing it. And my final story for our intro section here is electric. Super electric. Let's go more electric. University of Colorado at Boulder researchers did an analysis it was a study that was collaborative with National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Association, NOAA, did an analysis using sophisticated mathematical models, which usually they usually are, to figure out what kind of future cost, energy demand, generation, and energy transmission we could do. Because the president last November, December, said, hey, 2025, let's reduce our emissions by 25% or whatever he said, something like that. Can we do that? So these researchers went about it, analyzed, and they said, oh yeah, we totally can. And by basically increasing energy transmission, so creating freeways of sorts for energy transmission using high voltage direct current transmission grids. So that would have to be implemented across the country to be able to allow energy to be transmitted from place to place across the country, but also expanding the use of solar and wind, knowing that some areas are very sunny and others are very windy, expanding those. The researchers determined that we could cut total CO2 emissions 31% below 2005 levels by 2030. Only by making changes in the electrical sector. And that doesn't even mean making changes to other parts of our energy transmission repertoire.
Right. So because it's something like 50% or more of the energy and electricity that keeps your lights on stuff is lost transmitting it to your house. And it's also interesting that this story is talking about direct current. It's the thing that part of the reason direct current got abandoned, one of the reasons at least, is that it was so hard to transmit over long distances. So DC making a comeback and the electrical grid would be pretty exciting for if anybody has any patents left.
Yeah, so they're a new kind of line, these HVDC lines. And they are in use around the world. They do reduce energy losses over long distance transmissions. So if they were used extensively, they'd be more efficient long distance transmission, which would make it worthwhile. Additionally, they determined that we could cut emissions 33% below 1990 levels by 2030. And that would deliver electricity at about 8.6 cents per kilowatt hour, if you're interested in that kind of stuff. But basically, the survey says that, oh yeah, we could up power production quite a bit, but reduce carbon dioxide levels and meet increased demand, and it would all be through like renewables.
That'd be great.
Yes. But it's going to take, the big point here is that this is going to take policy effort. This is going to take, especially if it's cross-country transmission lines. This is the kind of thing that's going to need, that will require efforts in Congress to make this cross the country. And it's hard to consider that the money, they would appropriate the money for something like this when they're trying to spend $1 billion for the pie-in-the-sky cancer treatment,
Well, the other thing is this.
It's all important, but if the world's gonna come to an end,
Well, there's
the energy situation or cancer, overpopulation, or I don't know. This is
and obviously the pushback.
My jaded self talking.
The pushback from this infrastructural change would be that the energy sellers The way that we save these carbons going into the atmosphere is that the energy transmits more efficiently, so they are going to be purchased from that much less. They make, those selling the energy that they produced make the money once it's left, not once it's gotten somewhere. So if more of what they're selling is getting there, then they'll be asked to produce less, right? So you'll have this sort of obstacle of those wanting to purchase this energy and supply the energy, wanting these lines, those producing the energy, if it's not the same company, not wanting to.
Yeah. This is This Week in Science. Hey, Justin, tell me something about carbon dioxide.
So this is coming out of the North Atlantic. North Atlantic absorbed 100% more man-made carbon dioxide over the last decade compared to the previous decade. The findings show that the impact of the burning of fossil fuels have had on the world's oceans just 10 years, and it also correlates very well with our actual fossil fuel consumption. Every decade, we use as much fossil fuel as all previous decades combined.
Oh boy.
Which is what equals a doubling of our consumption every decade over the last. Good news is that the ocean is still absorbing about a quarter of the CO2 we put in the atmosphere. Yay, ocean!
Go ocean! Yay!
Bad news is that's really bad news for things that live in the ocean.
Right.
Ooh, right. So this is the University of Miami School of Marine and Atmospheric Science. To determine the total uptake and storage of carbon dioxide in the North Atlantic over the last several decades, researchers analyzed data collected from the same locations but 10 years apart to identify changes caused by man-made CO2. The data was collected during 2 National Science Foundation-funded international ship-based studies, CLIVAR, Climate Variability CO2 Repeat Hydrography. Oh my God! Well, hydrography. Okay.
Hydrography. Yeah.
Hydrography. Okay.
You're at the percent.
And GOSHIP, Global Ocean Ship-Based Hydrographic Investigations Program. The second team obviously had the better agronomist aboard. The study shows that the large impact of all of us are having on the environment, and that our fossil fuel isn't only causing the climate to change, but also affects the oceans by decreasing the pH, said Ryan Wosley, researcher in the Department of Ocean Sciences. So they're hoping again to go back in 10 years. What they're hoping they don't find 10 years from now is actually less of an uptake of carbon.
Right.
Because that means they've reached
right, because there's this fear that we're at some point going to reach peak ocean.
Mm-hmm. Right, that it will stop being able to buffer.
I'm full.
Well.
This side of the reaction's full.
I'm not taking another 25%. I might take 10% this year, 15%, and I'm going to decrease that until anything you produce stays in the atmosphere. It's a null game here, and the pH levels then through the roof.
Right. So we all know from those of us who took chemistry in high school, right, the limiting reagent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once we end up having used up all of the other things in that equation that raises the pH in the ocean acidification process, then it'll stop taking in carbon dioxide, right? But it's definitely when we get there are going to be much worse problems because coral reefs will completely collapse and we'll have less oxygen. So I would
anything
say
that uses calcium in its shell will have a serious issue.
Yeah, but mainly the coral reefs are really scary because they really need it, and they also are getting the double whammy because not only is the loss of calcium carbonate in ocean acidification a problem, but the rising temperatures and then also the deepening oceans are actually a triple whammy on these areas that have algae inside of them that give us oxygen, and that's about half of our oxygen that we get. So, yeah.
You especially don't want the phytoplankton to be affected.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Once you total in all of the oxygen that the ocean gives us, depending on who you ask, it's a different number, but it's usually around 80%.
But hey, the ocean is still taking it in, so we're all still good.
So we're okay right now. So maybe come this political cycle, when everybody's coming out to vote, we can kind of vote for some of those greener energy initiatives that Kiki was just talking about to slow down the carbon dioxide, to slow down the ocean acidification process to make sure we have plenty of oxygen. Just saying.
Identity 4 in the chat room. Oh man, so much optimism tonight. Okay, I've got one for you. I've got a good story for you.
Great.
So
Bring it.
I recently went and I got a root canal, right? And they put a crown on one of my teeth. And I feel like the dental assistant may have been a little new. I don't know at dental assisting in general, but certainly with the equipment that they were using, and I have binocular hung, it makes it hard for them to do x-rays. And so they kept like putting the thing, okay, no, didn't get it. Oh, no, let's try it again from this angle.
That happens to me every time.
And the whole time, I'm like, stop x-raying my face. I'm going to get cancers all over. It's just killing me. I've gotten like 3 years worth of... Don't worry, it may not be actually bad at all. The belief that radiation from X-ray, CT scans, and other medical imaging can cause cancer is based on an unproven, decades-old theoretical model, according to a study published in the American Journal of Clinical Oncology. The model, known as linear no-threshold, LNT, is used to estimate cancer risks from low-dose radiation, such as medical imaging. But risk estimates are based on this model are only theoretical and, as yet, have never been conclusively demonstrated by empirical evidence. Corresponding author James Welsh, MD, and colleagues write, use of LNT model drives unfounded fears and excessive expenditures on unneeded and wasteful safety measures. And I'm not saying you shouldn't take some precautions when you're messing around with x-rays, but they're saying it's completely based on information that's probably never been proven and probably isn't true.
So throw away your lead aprons, everyone.
Don't need them. Don't need them. Right? Dr. Welsh is I think if you're the one taking x-rays on a daily basis, you actually need the precautions because you are going to sit there and get radiation all day long, whereas the patient's only going to be getting whatever 10 or a dozen takes it took to look at this tooth. Dr. Welsh is the Loyola University Medical Center radiation oncologist and professor in the Department of Radiation Oncology of Loyola University Chicago Stritch School of Medicine. The LNT model dissuades many physicians from using appropriate imaging techniques, discourages many in the public from getting proper needed imaging, all in the name of avoiding any radiation exposure. They write. So this is interesting. You assume that there's ongoing research in these things that's keeping things up to date. The authors re-examined the original studies that date back more than 70 years, which led to the adoption of the LNT model. The reappraisal found that the data reported in those studies do not actually support their own model. In the LNT model, well-established cancer-causing effects of high doses of radiation are extended downward in a straight line to very low doses. The LNT model assumes there is no safe dose of radiation, no matter how small. However, the human body has evolved to repair damage from low-dose radiation. It's actually naturally occurring in our environment.
Right, we're constantly bombarded by low-dose radiation.
Yeah. So LNT model, based on studies conducted in the 40s, fruit flies exposed to various doses of radiation. Those who conducted the study concluded there is no safe level, thus giving rise to the LNT model that we use to this day. Their conclusion was unwarranted because their experiments had not been done at truly low doses. Study exposing fruit flies to low-dose radiation wasn't conducted until 2009 and does not support the LNT model.
So, it's interesting. It goes to show, so much of science is like, okay, there's a study that's been done, everybody accepts it, and it's happened, but and there's no pat on the back for doing replicative science, for testing something over and just double checking and making sure that conclusion is valid. You want to be the first in science. Publishing and the way the model is set up, you want to be the first. So it's not hard to believe that there was not much done until 2009. And, the reward for taking yourself or fruit flies or mice and sticking them in a low-dose radiation situation over and over and over again to see what happened.
Well, but yeah, I mean, and it's one of these things too that you sort of get it. It's sort of like it's back there, and you're trained. The training is going to medical professionals who, again, I tend to think of as mechanics following a troubleshooter. They're not experimenters. You don't experiment
No.
with your human patient. You go by your troubleshooter guide of how you're supposed to work on a human machine, right? So I get that. I get that the medical community perhaps didn't do a lot of research on it itself and just followed the guidelines. But very interesting. So this is one less thing to be scared of in the world. Next time you're going in for an x-ray, you don't have to cringe that you're over-irradiating all of your organs and are going to be glowing with cancer when you leave. You're actually...
And I actually think, though, this one study is not going to make it out into the wild and change many people's procedures when it comes to x-rays. You're probably still going to wear that lead vest or lead pad, and it's protective, so...
But if there is though a level of expenditure that hospitals are paying for that they don't need to be, and we can remove that from the process, people can get more tests, have more access to medical observation, and it could lower the cost of healthcare overall, which is good for everybody as we head towards a one-ish payer-ish system-y thing.
Ish. So much ish. Well, we had a whole bunch of ish and science-ish, and we had some happy news. We also had some wah news, but at the first half of the show, we're done. We're going to take a break right now. We're going to be back second half of the show. We've got an awesome interview with Daniel Hummer from the Deep Carbon Observatory. We're going to talk about earth minerals and why you should be looking for them. We'll be back. Oh, and also Blair's Animal Corner will be coming up after that as well. So we've got some good stuff ahead. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few moments. Hey everybody, have you taken our survey? We have a survey. We're trying to find out how and why and when, where people watch or listen or consume TWIS. We'd love to know if you do, and how you do, and why you do, and all these wonderful things. But you have to take our survey to answer the questions. So go to twis.org and there's a link. You'll find our survey. It would really help us out make decisions on programming and what we're going to be creating for the rest of 2016 and moving forward. It would help us out tremendously. So please do go there and check that out. And while you're over there, maybe check out our Zazzle store as well. Over at twis.org, we've got a link that says Zazzle. And you can click there. You'll be able to go to our store and find hats and mugs and mouse pads. I don't know if you're getting ready for Christmas already. There are Christmas ornaments, keychains, wonderful things with the TWIS logo emblazoned all over them. Get one for yourself, get one for a friend, and support TWIS in the process. It'll make you feel good. Also, TWIS is supported by listeners just like you. It really is. Your donations pay for our hosting, bandwidth, contractors we need to hire, fun things that we try to do for the show, everything, really. New equipment. Hey, you like how Justin sounds on the show today? Yeah, it was a donation, the mic stand that we have, and there's also, I believe, there was a pop filter there too somewhere, but the mic stand that Justin is using was donated by one of our listeners. Thank you so much for helping us make Justin sound better. But however, whatever you're able to give, $2, $5, please consider giving to TWIS so that we can continue to bring you quality science podcasting throughout the rest of the year and into the future. You can go to twis.org and look for the PayPal buttons that are all over the website if you like PayPal. Additionally, we have a Patreon account. It's Patreon, patreon.com/thisweekinscience. And at Patreon, you'll be able to sponsor us in an ongoing fashion, episode by episode, like a patron of the podcasting arts. And you get a little bit of swag in return. So, whatever your preference, go to the website, listen to the most recent episode, do our survey, and comment on the show, and make a donation. But if you can't make a donation, we can always use your help to get more people listening to TWIS. Use your social networks. Share and share widely. Let people know how much you love TWIS, why you love TWIS. If you listen to TWIS on iTunes, give us a review. That would be awesome. Give thumbs up to reviews that are pretty awesome, and that'll help us out because the better reviews we have, maybe the more people will check us out. That would be pretty cool. Anyway, No matter how you help and support us, we thank you for your support. We really could not do this without you.
He says that his aura will keep you alive for 3 easy installments of $10.95. The device he uses sucks out the bad juices and leaves no bad bruises. It simply deduces the proper percentage of X in your brain. This miracle cure leaves no permanent pain. And still, you can't believe what a skeptic I am. I can't believe you believe in that plan. We disagree, but I...
And we are back to This Week in Science. You are listening to This Week in Science, and it's time for our interview. Did you know that we are missing some minerals here on Earth? 145 carbon minerals, give or take. Exactly? I don't know. These are the questions that we need to ask. The Deep Carbon Observatory is challenging amateur and professional rockhounds alike to search for them, and Daniel Hummer is with us tonight to talk about the Carbon Mineral Challenge. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Welcome. And I'm all ready. I've got my shovel. I've got my scraper.
Oh, good.
I was wondering what you were doing.
Hand just in case we find a good spot.
You're gonna go looking for gold? Well,
Well, I'm out there. Might as well, Never hurts to look.
Never hurts to look. Okay, Daniel, what this Carbon Mineral Challenge? Can you give us a rundown of what you're really trying to do?
Yeah. So basically, what we've done is my collaborators and I. And this was really the brainchild of my collaborator at the Carnegie Institution for Science, which is where I work. And actually, the Deep Carbon Observatory is an organization that's composed of many scientists around the world of all kinds of institutions. And basically, what we've done is done a statistical analysis of mineral distributions all around the world. So we have a huge database of what mineral species there are, where they occur around the world, how many times they occur. And we've done this specifically with carbon minerals because carbon is such an important element to the Earth. Of course, we wouldn't exist without carbon. All of us, yes, all of us are based on carbon chemistry. And so we did this with minerals of carbon. And what you find, and this seems bizarre, it seems like a contradiction because we're saying, well, there's 145 carbon minerals that we don't know about, and you think, well, how could we know how many we don't know about if they're not known?
Right. If we've never found them, how do we know that they're there?
Right. And so the answer is, the secret is that we can look at these distributions of minerals all over the world and fit them to a statistical distribution. And it actually turns out, and this was something that my collaborator at Carnegie discovered. His name is Robert Hazen, and he's a staff scientist there at the Carnegie Institution. And I'm collaborating with him on this now. And basically, what you find is that if you count up all the different minerals all over the world, there are about 5,000 different mineral species. It turns out that you can fit them to a particular statistical distribution. So what do I mean by that? So let's do let's all of us in the audience at home, let's do a thought experiment.
All right.
So the thought experiment is go to your bookshelf and pick out a random book and flip it open to a random page. Okay, you don't have to actually do it, but imagine that you have a bookshelf behind you.
I have many books.
Oh my
gosh. I have
gosh.
many books. I'm going to use the book of our guest for next week, Paul Knopfler.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
So
anyway.
before
All right, got it.
So before you flip it open to a random page in that book, predict what words do you think will be on that page? Can you guess any words that will be on that page?
I'll go with the. I'll take
Yeah,
the.
I was gonna say, is the cheating?
A
No, it's not.
and
Because this is the secret to what we've done.
I've
So-
already found it. The
You found it. You found the. Okay.
there's another the.
Excellent.
The. We've got many ands.
Mhm. So what we see when we open up the book page is that many words we would not be able to predict, but there's a few words that are so common we see them all the time. A, and, the, is. We see these words so much, they're so incredibly common, but there's actually only a few of these words that are incredibly common. Most words in the English language, like aardvark and bookshelf and candlestick, are rare. So it's a little counterintuitive. We have a select few words that are very, very common, and then the distribution trails off, and there's a whole bunch of words that we see very, very little of, actually. And it turns out that when you analyze the distribution of minerals around the world, it follows the same distribution as the words in a book. It follows the exact same equation. So what that enables us to do is take a set of minerals and say, well, how many do we know about? And the equation from the statistical distribution, one of the parameters of that equation is the total number that there are. So all of a sudden, we analyze the mathematics of it, and we see what the gaps are, and we have a very good estimate of how many there are left that we don't know about.
And for each mineral family, so you're talking for this challenge, the carbon minerals, for each
Right.
mineral family, they would have their own statistical prevalence or proportion in the Earth's crust based on how much of that element, the element that is the basis for those minerals, is in the crust. Is there some aspect of that in your models as well?
Yeah, so we find that when we do this for minerals as a whole, so when we do it for all of the 5,000 plus mineral species, we find that they follow this particular kind of statistical distribution. It's not a normal distribution. It's one of the abnormal distributions. But we can also do the same thing for subsets of minerals, minerals that contain a particular element or have a particular property. And what we find is that these subsets of minerals also follow the same kind of distribution, but the magnitude is different. The amount of them does vary according to how much of the element is in the crust. So we're looking at carbon minerals, and so it turns out in the mineral kingdom, the A's, ands, and thes of the mineral kingdom are things like quartz and calcite and feldspar. You guys have probably heard of these because they're so common. We find them all over the world. In fact, here's a crystal of calcite right here that I grabbed from my collection. It's a beautiful. It is. It's a very pretty mineral. A lot of them occur in these clear crystals like this. And this is a good one to show because this is a carbon mineral. This is calcium carbonate. In fact, you guys were just talking about all the corals in the ocean. They're made of this stuff. It's just a ground-up version of this stuff right here. So
yeah. So let's go backwards for just 1 second. I know that when we were pushing this out on through our Twitter account, someone responded and was like, "Wait a minute, what do you mean carbon minerals? Don't you just mean diamonds and?" You know, they couldn't understand. They didn't get that there was something more that we were looking for. Was it coal? Are you looking we know coal and we know diamond. What else are you talking about?
Right. So that's a great point. So I should clarify that. So when I say carbon minerals, I don't mean minerals that are exclusively carbon, although there are a few of them that are exclusively carbon, and diamond is one of them. Graphite is another one of them. So there's a few of those. But we also mean minerals that contain carbon in combination with other elements. So calcium carbonate or calcite is yet another example. There's a whole family of carbonates that have CO3 in their chemical formula. There are even minerals that are based on organic molecules, believe it or not. There are several examples of that. So there are carbide minerals in which carbon combines with a metal from the periodic table, one of the ones here on this side of the periodic table.
Right.
So yeah, so there's all kinds of different minerals that contain carbon, and that's what we're looking for. We know how many we're looking for, and these minerals can tell us something unique about the Earth because carbon is so prevalent and such an important element.
Nice. So how are people going to go about, you've determined that there are these 145 left, and now the rate at which, how much has the rate at which people are finding elements changed over the last few years to inspire you to put this call out to get more people involved in the search?
Mm-hmm. Well, part of it, I mean, part of the motivation is, as I said, that carbon is such an important element that when we find out more about the chemistry of carbon, it tells us more about what kind of chemistry is possible on Earth. So, it's very revealing scientifically to find some of these missing carbon minerals because it teaches us about what's possible on our planet. And we live on, of course, quite a unique planet. Another part of the motivation, though, is that we've used these statistics to not only say how many missing carbon minerals there are, but also what they might be. And we wrote a paper that my collaborator at Carnegie, Bob Hazen, was the lead author on this paper. And he lists a whole bunch of possible new minerals that we think are out there. And of course, as you and all your listeners know, in science, when we have predictions, we have to test them. We don't want to just say, we think this is what's going on. We have to go out there and find out if that's what's going on. And so by doing that, we'll know that our understanding of how minerals are distributed around the Earth, there's something to it. There's something accurate there. So we've predicted all these minerals, and we want people who know where to find them, who know a lot about minerals, to go out there and help us and see if we can find them, because we're probably not going to be able to find very many of them if we don't recruit lots of help. Yeah. So we're sending the call out. Everybody who loves rocks and minerals, we've got a website where we tell people what kinds of things we think are out there. We even have some localities. We have some mineral localities listed where we think we might find some of them.
Excellent.
And why do certain localities seem to be special for finding minerals?
It would be the chemistry, or just the landscape. It's like, this is a giant piece of lapis, right?
Beautiful.
Right?
That's gorgeous.
And
yes.
there's only a few places where you can get giant pieces of lapis. And it's also one of those things that sort of always, whenever in science fiction they're out there mining asteroids, I'm always thinking, like, why do you have to go to an asteroid? Why is there a mining planet? Why would you have to go to a very specific... Can't you just find it at some place on your own planet or manufacture it by the point in time where you've gotten spaceships that go out there and mine asteroids? But on the Earth, yeah, there's different chemistry that takes place that I think would lend itself more to this. And I love that you've got it sort of drilled down to, like, hey, if you happen to live in this region, there's a chance that this specific form of the mineral that we're looking for may have formed there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you've hit upon a really fascinating question that is very much being actively researched in geology, and in my field specifically, which is geochemistry. And that is, why do we have so many different minerals? Why do we have special chemical conditions in one place in the Earth rather than another? And and there's still lots of debate and active research going on about this. But part of the answer, pretty much probably any geologist would tell you, is that that one of the unique features that the Earth has is plate tectonics. So plate tectonics enables you to move chunks of the Earth around very slowly over geologic time. Some of it gets pushed under others, and then it melts and it mixes things up, and all of this churning up of the Earth through plate tectonics helps to create different chemical environments. And so, yeah, many metals are just kind of sprinkled around evenly throughout rocks all over the Earth, and that makes it very hard to mine because it's so spread out. It's not concentrated in any one place. But sometimes we find geologic environments where certain elements have been concentrated, and we form particular minerals with particular elements in them. And so that's part of the story, is that we have this, the Earth is constantly active, it's constantly being mixed up.
Do you think that, with the chemistry of the Earth, do you think there is any limit to the combinations that we could find?
I think probably there is a theoretical limit,
Right.
but that limit is very, very high,
Yeah.
because every time, and you can talk to chemists and geochemists about this. Every time we go into the lab and we put together some new cocktail, some new combination of elements, and cook them up in a particular way, we always seem to find new things. So, you think about the 90 elements on the periodic table here behind me that are naturally occurring. There's 118 now. New ones were.
I know, new
might
ones
have
are
even talked
added.
about that on
Yes.
your show.
We did.
But only 90 of them are naturally occurring. If we go out into the Earth, we would only find about 90 of them in any appreciable amount. And so you think about, different combinations of these 90 different elements and varying their concentrations to one degree or another, and there's just trillions upon trillions of combinations that you can try. And whenever we try these different combinations, we end up finding new materials that are stable. So, I think there's a lot that's possible, but it's limited by the pressure and temperature conditions and atmospheric conditions that we find on Earth. So basically, from this huge, astronomical array of possibilities, the conditions of the Earth give us a somewhat less astronomical
Exactly.
array of possibilities, which is still a lot for us to explore.
Lots of ands and thus. But of this list of 145, how many could you, or have you, or is it possible to manufacture in the lab?
Well, some of the predictions actually are based on compounds that we do know about from the lab, that people have made in the lab, but we just haven't found them in nature. And part of the definition of a mineral, if you look in the science textbooks, part of the definition of a mineral is that it has to be naturally occurring, whether it's on Earth or from a meteorite or from another planet. We have to be able to find it somewhere in the natural world, like outside of our little laboratories.
So okay. So that's not fair. That's really cheating if you can't make your own mineral. That's not.
Oh, here it is. That was the paper that I just saw there.
Yes.
That is coming out this month, I believe.
Okay, fantastic. So for anybody who is interested in the minerals that have been predicted and listed, the paper is available as a preprint currently online.
Yep.
And it will be coming out in American Mineralogist.
Yes.
Nice. So that'll be great. So, but the key really for this is not to be finding things that could be created in a lab. This is to find things on Earth, find where they're coming from, and maybe get an idea of what areas of the Earth are important for creating this certain chemical conditions that would create.
Perhaps more importantly, Kiki. More importantly, this is the burning question now.
Yes.
If you should find one of these naturally occurring in nature, do you get to name it?
Yes, actually, you do get to name it.
Oh, now this creates.
But with one caveat, I have to warn everybody about, and that is, and these rules, by the way, are governed by a body called the International Mineralogical Association. So you do get to name the mineral, but you are not allowed to name it after yourself. So that's unfortunate.
So if I find it, I have to call it like Blairidium or Kiki Night, something of this nature.
That's right. But I'll tell you, but what you can do is all three of you can discover a mineral and then just name it after the person on your left, and then you'll all have your own minerals.
Yeah.
Or we could all discover one and name it Twisonium.
Oh,
great. I like it. So these rules are well-established rules that they govern anyone who is searching for new minerals. And so, is there?
Yes. Oh, yes. There's the IMA website there. That's the Commission on New Minerals Nomenclature and Classification, or as we call it in the biz, CNMNC.
Okay. And
which takes practice to say. It's a little bit of a tongue twister.
Say it 3 times fast, exactly.
And it reminds me slightly too. I think it's always just best advice. If you discover it, name it after your spouse or one of your children or something like this. Do it quickly, because there was some story long ago where it was like the researcher had discovered 128 different species, and now he'd found this tiny snake that he had named, and he named it after his wife.
Oh no!
What took the 100? What was the other 128?
Well, I'd
that
be
was
honored.
so much more important.
Right. Well, I named the 127th after my barista at Starbucks, but now I've gotten around to my wife.
And the IMA has a paper that's available through their website, the IMA Commission on New Minerals and Mineral Names, Procedures and Guidelines on Mineral Nomenclature.
That is I am so impressed that you guys are finding this. I don't know how you've done this. This is stuff that only us mineralogy, geochemistry people know generally.
I can internet.
Yeah, I can has papers.
That's right. Yeah, so are you expecting mainly that people who are already into finding rocks and looking at minerals and are well advanced in this as a good hobby, or are you hoping to inspire a new generation of rock hounds?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely hoping to inspire. Scientifically, we definitely want for people who have experience with this, who are in the know about mineral species and mineral localities, to go out there and try to find things. But yes, we also want people, who maybe have not thought much about this before, haven't experienced the beauty of going out and finding one of these crystals in the natural world, to go out there and try it, because it's really an amazing thing to do. It shows you, how vast and complex the Earth actually is, and it's actually, it creates beautiful things. So yeah, we want anybody who wants to go out there and get involved and see what you find.
And it can be more rewarding. I spent an entire day out in the cold river trying to get gold, and ended up with nothing at the end of the day.
Except a memory.
My son, who was I think 7 at the time, had a huge bag full of quartz that he got to take home. I ended up with nothing. He had this huge bag of quartz that he was very happy and proud of.
No, well, see, here's what the problem was, though. Your son was smart and was looking for the common ones. He was looking for A's, An's, and thes.
Yeah.
You were trying to find the aardvark.
I was looking for an aardvark in a river, which is a weird place.
This describes Justin to a T. Always looking for the aardvark.
But I could see this. I could see this setting off a treasure hunt, a wave of treasure hunters looking to go out and claim the prize of having found one of these, and have the bragging rights, the naming rights, and all that other, all the kudos that go along with really being a successful rock hound. I mean, I think this could take off. I bet next time we talk.
I'm hoping so.
Have you heard from people who work at universities who are looking into the drawers, into the dusty boxes that haven't been shaken out in a long time? Are you hearing from people since this effort has gotten underway?
So we haven't heard directly from anybody who's doing that, but that's exactly one of the things that we want to do, because people who have mineral collections, whether they're amateur mineral collectors or people at labs and museums in particular, where they have drawers full of mineral specimens from exotic places in the world, that's exactly what we want to do. We want to start going through those drawers, because we think a lot of these missing minerals are hiding in places where we already have them, but we just don't know that we have them. And it just requires looking with a more careful eye. Now that we know what we're looking for, we may start finding a lot of these ones that we're predicting are out there.
Is there anything, for in particular, that you can recommend for the people who know their rocks, who are who have an eye for minerals and know what they're talking about? Is there anything that you can recommend for where they should be looking, how they should be searching?
Yeah, so we actually, and this is a good time for me to plug the website, because we have all of this. You can find information about this challenge on our website, mineralchallenge.net. And we describe there, some of the things that we're looking for. And one of the things is that we have a listing of localities around the world that are particularly high in their content of carbon minerals. So a lot of carbon mineral species have been found at these locations. So, ooh, I see some of the website right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are some prominent localities around the world. Some of them are shown in those with those red arrows there, those pointers, and they have a particularly large number of carbon mineral species. So collectors can go there to start looking for them. Another thing that I would suggest is that a lot of these things may have eluded our attention until now because they're not big, nice-looking, flashy crystals like these, that collectors love to pick up. Some of these missing minerals may be very tiny crystals, just powders that are sprinkled across different places. One of those places would be zones where volcanic gases are depositing material. Carbon dioxide comes out of volcanoes, and it precipitates materials, and oceans evaporate, and the dissolved stuff gets caked onto other rocks. So we would recommend, getting samples of these powders, of these, tiny crystals of minerals, and testing those and checking to see if something new is there.
Nice. Is there a word of advice for people who might be interested in joining in the effort, but who are new to looking at pieces of the Earth?
Oh gosh, well, I guess a good place to start is to check if there are mineral collecting societies in your region, and check to see if they have field trips. A lot of these societies, and they exist in many places in the world, local societies that you can join, and you can go out on field trips and start collecting minerals. But you kind of, you're not doing it by yourself. You have the guidance of people who have some experience, who know what minerals they're looking at. And so, I would do that as a first step and start collecting with some people who have experience, experience it for yourself, and just start keeping an eye out for things that are unusual. Because there's always something unusual out there.
Right, yeah, that's great advice. Keep an eye out for something unusual. Be on the lookout. Mm-hmm. I love it. Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thanks.
There's the website, which is mineralchallenge.net, mm-hmm. and also the Deep Carbon Observatory, their Twitter account is @DeepCarb, and you can follow the Deep Carbon Challenge at #DCO Challenge. Mm-hmm. Did I get it all? Are there any other places people should be looking for information?
Well, we have, so the Deep Carbon Observatory, the worldwide organization, has a website as well, and that's simply deepcarbon.net. So it's all very easy to remember, deepcarbon.net and mineralchallenge.net.
Fantastic. We'll have to get someone back on here to talk more about carbon on the Earth and the wonders of the carbon cycle.
Yeah, and I should point out, just to let people know that this is not a futile effort. We announced this in a press conference at a major conference back in December. So that's what kickstarted the whole thing. And since that time, we've been monitoring, we've been getting messages through our website, and just in the 2 months that we have been doing this, we already have 2 confirmed new carbon minerals.
Nice.
Wow.
Yes, and not only that, but one of them corresponds to one of the ones that is predicted in the paper that you just saw.
Perfect. Wow.
So there is science at work. We made a prediction and we have verified it.
Wow.
So that's always exciting.
That's so great. And really, it's just by making a big effort, trying to reach out to a community of people who are interested in this topic and just going, let's do this. Mm-hmm. Let's find these things. Let's all work together. And so do you think, what, 5 years you'll be well on your way?
Yeah, the challenge is actually going to last for 4 years. It's going to last up through the fall of 2019 because that's actually when our organization's funding will run out. The
Oh no.
Department Observatory will be winding down in 2019. So the challenge is going to last for the duration through that. So you have 4 years to find them. When you find new things, you can message us through the website. And let us know what you have. Let us know if material has been tested and if you've got something new. And we're going to have one of the pages there is going to be a listing, a table with photos and names of the minerals that have been discovered and who their discoverers are. So it should be fun. We've already started. We're already having some success right now. So I'm excited to see what happens in the next 4 years.
We've got a few volcanoes and super volcanoes in California, plus a nice glaciation age that did some good stuff. I got my scraper. I'm going to head for the hills. I'm going to do some digging. I'm going to see if I can come up with something.
All right.
I smell a twist short.
Oh, Justin, digging in the hills. 5 minutes. Betty gets bored.
Now, it turns out it's not in the front lawn of a condo, and people are like,
oh my gosh, that's perfect. Just the slow pan.
The slow pan out. Okay, tangent. Daniel, thank you so much once again for joining us tonight. We hope that
awesome visit. Thank you for joining.
Thanks
thank
so
you.
much.
Great conversation, and I hope to hear back great news from you guys about all of the new carbon minerals that you will be discovering.
Yes, we will let you know if more things start happening.
Yeah, we'll have to get an update at some point. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Yep, you too. Thanks a lot.
Good night. All right, everybody. This is This Week in Science, and do you know what time it is?
Oh, I know. It's time for Blair's Animal Corner.
She loves our creatures, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. You want to hear about animals? She's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels that are both for her.
What you got, Blair?
Oh, well, I want to talk about something we have not talked about enough on this show. Did you know that Corvids-R-Smart?
I think this seems to be a reoccurring theme on this show.
Yeah. So it's
No dumb rapists.
I've never thought this before.
So this, I would say, actually is less of a commentary on how smart corvids are, and actually more of a commentary on something else we've talked about a lot on the show, which is that animals are smarter than we give them credit for, and that in fact they have a whole different level of consciousness than we like to think of. So this is looking at a particular kind of consciousness that has to do with being able to put yourself in a hypothetical other person's brain and imagine what they can see. So to kind of explain that, I like to think about if you're...
theory of mind? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So if you're about to get in the shower and you strip down, right, and you notice that your window's open, you might, if you're that kind of person, put on a robe to go to the shower. Or before you take your clothes off, you might close the blinds. And that's not because you can see someone on the other side of the window. That's because you can imagine that someone might walk by and might be able to see you through that window. So that is a whole separate level of being able to put yourself in someone else's potential brain, thinking about the opportunity to see.
Also must question why I have a ceiling-to-floor window in my shower. But still.
Not in the shower, you're walking to the shower, but still... The point stands that it's an extra level of cognition other than just seeing someone else outside your window and thinking you should cover up. So this is kind of what this study was looking at out of the University of Vienna. They were looking at ravens and whether or not they would guard their food when they're caching it and kind of cache it quickly so there would be less chance of other ravens seeing where they would put it if there was no raven around, but there was the opportunity for a raven to see. So in this situation, in the first situation, there were two ravens that they had a window between them, and so there was the raven that was caching the food could clearly see the raven on the other side of the window, guarded their food. When the raven was not there, they did not guard their food. Then they had a peephole, and they taught the raven to see a human through the peephole. So they taught them how the peephole worked.
Right. They're probably on the other side going, knock, 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 knock. Hi, Raven. Hi.
Right.
Look at me here.
Right. So then, in the last phase of the study, so they closed the window, and the ravens took their sweet time caching their food and didn't act guarded and all this stuff. But then they opened up the peephole and played sounds of ravens on the other side of this window. So there weren't even any ravens present, and they guarded their food exactly like when the window was open and there was a raven on the other side. So this means they can perceive that there could be a raven over there and that the peephole allowed the opportunity for them to see.
Yeah, so it's like that window that you would cover up the family jewels.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. So this is another situation where we look at a trait that we think is uniquely human, and it's not so human after all. So looking at this means, yes, this is a very smart animal, but this is also an animal that is way different from us evolutionarily. So that means that we need to maybe take a step back when we look at this and look for it in other animals and not assume that it's something that is strictly human or even ape-like.
I think, though, part of this, it goes back to that idea that we don't attribute things to animals until we figure out a way to test it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Someone finally came up with a way to test this question in a corvid. Working with not with ravens, but with magpies and with scrub jays, I was often completely shocked at how intelligent they were, at how much planning they went through. So with magpies especially, when we took away their ability to store food and gave them powdered food, they clumped it all together like a glue ball in their crop and then spit out the wad of food and then cached that.
Right.
They're like, you silly human.
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and do what I want. And same goes for many of the littler birds, even chickadees. They wouldn't store or cache their food when you're there watching, but they would when you left the room.
Right. And in this study, they cached their food as quickly as they could instead of taking their time digging a deeper hole. But they also would not go visit another cache while somebody could be watching them because they didn't want to give away the location.
Yeah, so now I think this is for anyone on a college campus or in a park when you're just out watching the birds. If you see western scrub jays or crows or ravens even, and they are looking like they've got a piece of food in their mouth, or they're looking a little sneaky around a tree, just watch them and see what they do. Or maybe turn your back and give them the opportunities to show them that you're not watching them and see what they do. I think this is such a big opportunity for more experiments on these birds.
Yeah.
I feel like we do a study on scrub jays, though, where they weren't necessarily remembering all the places where they had hidden food, but were just had sort of logical places where they would store it. And sometimes they would find other food, other scrub jays' food, and sometimes they weren't. Like, they didn't care.
But now you have to ask yourself.
No, I think that was squirrels.
Was that squirrels?
Oh, that was
squirrels.
But now you have to ask yourself, though, if you're studying an animal, if they know they're being studied, will they act differently?
Yes.
Self-conscious scrub jay.
Yes.
Right? No, this is a valid question.
If the birds have theory of mind, yes.
If they think that you might steal their resources, they might not act normally in a lab. This is a whole extra element to studying any animal, but especially corvids.
But
Is
I
you
also
have to make
picture,
sure it's blind.
right, but I also picture the corvids like maybe stepping it up when they know they're being watched. Okay, humans are looking. All right, nobody act like an idiot. Let's craft the tool. Let's get this job done. Let's do this task. Let's show them how it's done here, people. Nobody slack right now. Humans are watching. They're probably recording this. They're probably writing stuff down.
And action. Go.
Right. Yeah. Well, regardless, it does add an extra element to all of that. It's not just that they're smart. It's not just that they have this theory of mind. It's that, in my opinion, one of the biggest takeaways is that you have to make sure that they don't think they're being watched if you're doing any sort of experiment that involves a resource. So I think it's a whole extra thing. Moving on to our favorite topic of tonight for the downer stuff is climate change. So every week it seems new ways that climate change will be just kind of throwing a monkey wrench into the works for all biota pops up. And there's a couple new ones this week. With birds, particularly looking at zebra finches. Kiki, zebra finch. Meep, 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 meep. Hello, hello. Meep, meep. Yay! So zebra finches, they, amongst other birds, but they have this really interesting method in how they incubate their eggs, where they lay one egg a day for usually around 5 days, and then they incubate their eggs after the day that the last egg is laid. And that way, they make sure that they all hatch around the same time. So when climate change storms onto the scene, and normally these guys incubate their eggs between 36 and 40 degrees Celsius, and in the summer there have been temperatures up to 50 degrees Celsius lately, that disrupts their usual plan.
Yes.
So that can kind of mess up that whole timing for their eggs that they so intensely depend on. So if the eggs don't hatch all at once, this upsets their balance where they need to go get food for the babies. This also means that some of the babies will be bigger and stronger than others, and they will start neglecting the smaller ones, which means their clutch size will end up being smaller as a result. There's lots of long-term effects when these kind of hatching procedures are upset so intensely by ambient temperature. But I think it's interesting. We would assume that, if anything, it might actually help the birds because they wouldn't have to sit on their eggs as much, but it can be quite harmful. And then the other way that climate change can affect animals, this is looking at our best friends, our dogs and cats, is the diseases that we try so hard to protect our best friends from. These are things like heartworm, Lyme disease, fleas. It all looks like it's going to get worse. Previous studies have shown that these things are these little guys, the ticks and the fleas, are actually going to be smaller, but they're going to be more widespread. They're going to be going into areas that they were not previously found, and they're going to be found year-round. And the mosquitoes that bring heartworm are moving north.
So is this similar to probably the Aedes aegypti or something, the mosquitoes? There's the mosquito that is also spreading Zika and dengue and all these wonderful things. These mosquitoes either are the same or they enjoy the same ecological conditions.
Exactly, yeah, and they're also the same mosquitoes that are bringing things like West Nile virus that could also potentially affect horses, people, and our best friends. So this is something that we have to be cognizant of because we can actually stem the tide a little bit. We can check our dogs for ticks. That's very important. So before you only did that in certain seasons, now you might want to check your dogs for ticks year-round.
Depending on how warm it is, but yeah.
Right, yeah, and keep up on your dog's heartworm meds. Keep up on it. Also, flea checks. If you don't know how to flea check your dog or your cat, ask the vet. It's a very easy thing to do. If you see fleas cropping up, be sure to give them a flea bath. Take care of it early. All of these things, you can still keep your animals healthy. It's just something we have to be cognizant of now year-round because climate change is bringing all this stuff to us year-round now in a lot of areas.
Yeah, and in terms of mosquitoes, be sure, especially with El Nino, it's been very rainy and will continue to be rainy. Make sure you dump out all pots and buckets, things that may contain water that would be standing and provide an environment for mosquitoes to hatch. That'll be good for animal and human health.
Yes, no
efforts.
mosquito nurseries, please.
Yeah, take care of those mosquito nurseries. Por favor.
Okay, so chat room, something that's come up. Talking about whether or not with the guys, whether or not minerals evolve, what's evolution versus things evolving. It suddenly strikes me. I don't know what came first: the word things evolving, events evolving, the word evolving, or evolution as Darwinian, and then people co-opting other things to like evolution, things evolving. Now I don't know.
That would be a question for the etymology. I'm sure that it has a.
I could Google it and we could get this answer immediately, but I'm refusing to do so because it's such a nice question not to know the answer to.
Well, I have a question for my last story of the night. Which came first, the snack or the messy kitchen?
Which came first? Oh,
are we talking about the first snack or the last one?
See, that's the question. Well, a recent study, not a huge sample size, only about, I believe it was 100 people, but a recent study has shown that if your kitchen is messy, you will eat more. Yeah, so cluttered, chaotic environments in your kitchen can cause stress, which leads us to grab more indulgent snacks. So, at Cornell, they're saying being in a chaotic environment and feeling out of control is bad for diets. It leads people to think, quote, everything else is out of control, so why shouldn't I be?
That's exactly what happens.
Really?
But this study, by the way, and this is before you say anything, this study was done only with females, and a professor from University of New South Wales in Australia comments, I suspect the same would hold true for males.
No.
I don't know. No, I don't know.
Messy. I can recall the college kitchen sink that was full of every piece of silverware, where you're like, I could make food, but I'd have to wash something. Forget it.
Yeah, well, and I would say that might lead you to eat worse food because you're not going to cook,
You're eating fast food, right? Yeah.
But this
pizza.
study was about putting people in a room that was messy versus clean, and then them having things like crackers, cookies, carrot sticks for them to munch on. They didn't have to munch on anything. They just had to sit in the kitchen for 10 minutes. And when they went into a messy kitchen, they ate 53 more calories from cookies alone in 10 minutes. When they were told to think about a time in their life that was under control or a time in their life that was out of control before going into the kitchen, then they ate 100 more calories if they were primed to be thinking about being out of control. So if you're feeling like you're snacking inappropriately, if you want to cut down on the snacks, keep your kitchen clean and practice. Meditation might be the wrong word, but thinking about finding things in your life that you are in control of.
Yes, for control. Origin of the word evolution is Latin.
No, don't tell me. I like not knowing.
First known use, 1622, well before Darwin.
Okay, and in that case, I think it's safe to
And
say
what was
that
its
minerals
meaning
evolve
then?
over
Do
time.
we know? Was it the same? What was the meaning back then? What was the context?
1622. I'm not sure what the first use actually was, but yeah. But biological evolution is something that came. The awareness of that is something that came much later than our awareness. Actually, not much, but later than our awareness of geophysical evolution.
Sure. So it was probably some politician back there's opinion changing over time as the winds of politics shifted to the people, right? So it was probably used politically first. I don't.
You know, The Winds of Change?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
that
yeah.
song, right?
There we go.
Is
Sorry.
that can I ask who did that song? Sorry to jump
Oh.
in, because in all seriousness, 2 months ago, I woke up with that song in my head, that little whistle, and it drove me nuts because I couldn't think of what song it was, and I've been trying for the past 2 months to remember what it is. And when I heard you whistling, maybe she knows.
Scorpions.
I was gonna say it's a butt rock hair
Scorpions.
band of some sort.
The Scorpions. Yes.
All right, sorry to interrupt. I
No,
wanted
not
to
at all.
know the answer to that.
Not at all.
Glad to give you an answer.
I had a similar experience where I was whistling something at work the other day, and it took me halfway through the workday and asking all my coworkers to identify the song. None of them could, because apparently none of them have children. It was the theme song to Caillou. And it was like, it's stuck in my head. It's a children's thing my kid was watching.
Nobody would know.
No, but I'm asking, how does nobody know this? It's so fully formulated in my head. Everybody must know this. It was from the kids program.
From a kids program. Well, difference between kids and adults. Adults are older. Adults are gonna senesce probably sooner.
Boo.
But we all want to live forever, right? So how do we extend our lifespans? This is something
Telomeres.
Telomeres are one thing, but also clearing out the junk. Researchers at the Mayo Clinic gave mice a compound called AP20187. It's a transgene. They had a transgene in the mice that allowed for this drug to lead to elimination of senescent cells. So cells that have they're starting to die, but they haven't really died, and they're just there. And it's okay to have a certain amount of senescent cells. We all have senescent cells in our body from basically the minute that we're born until the minute that we die. But as we get older, we have more senescent cells, and more senescent cells give off compounds that could lead to causing tumor growth, causing other health detriments, and even leading to more rapid aging. So giving the mice this compound led to the upregulation of immune cells jumping into the fray and cleaning out these senescent cells, just going, get out of here, we're going to clean house. And what they found is that the median lifespan of the mice that were treated was extended by 17 to 35%. So it's a couple of weeks, a few weeks at the end of a short mouse lifespan, but at the end of a several decade-long human lifespan, this could add a decade or more.
Yeah. Sign me up.
Right. Something like this could lead to healthier aging, so that people are healthier longer as they age, and later aging, so that the actual onset of senescence, what we call the period that actually leads to the decline, is the decline before death, that making that later is better. So longer, healthier lives, better living through chemistry, people.
Is this something I could do over and over and over again, so that
right, so
it would be this exponential growth of
I
time?
wish for 3 more wishes. Didn't see that one coming, did you, Jeannie?
So this is, it could be very significant. We don't know if it will work in people yet, because of course we're just helping mice we're curing cancer in mice and helping them age better, but we don't know how it'll work in people at this point in time. But that's what they're going to look at soon. That's the next direction.
Nice.
Yeah, so aging, we're going to beat it eventually, people. We're going to live forever and ever and ever.
Singularity, here I come.
We will live forever, just like the length of this podcast.
Yes.
Oh.
And our apartments will only continue to get smaller.
Our apartments will get smaller,
as the
and our
population grows.
kitchens will get messier, and we'll eat more cookies. All right, everybody, we have come to the end of this show. And I want to say,
But I have so many more stories. There's so much more to talk about. We'll have to get it into next week's show.
Exactly. I'd like to thank our Patreon sponsors. Thanks to Kevin Parachan, John Ratnaswamy, Steve DeBell, Patrick O'Keefe, Jason Schneiderman, Rudy Garcia, Gerald Sorrells, Greg Guthman, Dave Neighbor, Jason Dozier, Matthew Litwin, Eric Knapp, Jason Roberts, Patrick Cohn, Richard Onimus, KDWB, Byron Lee, EO, Bob Calder, Jared Lysette, Ulysses Adkins, Brian Condren, Jake Jones, Trainer 84, Kati Volk, Edvardus Rimkus, Brian Hedrick, Cassie Lester, Sarah Chavez, Steven Stroyak, Layla, Shannon Tara Ginsburg, Marshall, Charlene Henry, Dom Kamarechka, Larry Garcia, Randy Mazuka, Ed Dyer, Tony Steele, Dave Friedel, Craig Landon, Daryl Lambert, David Wiley, Robert Aston, Andrew Dollinger, Sylvan Westby, Artyom, Michael Perez, Shu Wada, Stephen B., Dave Wilkinson, Steve Mashinsky, Rodney Lewis, Braxton Howard, Phil Nadeau, Rick Ramus, Salgood Sam, Matt Sutter, Emma Grenier, Philip Shane, James Dobson, Kurt Larson, Stefan Insom, Michael George, Russell Jensen, Mountain Sloth, Jim Drapeau, Tara Payne, Alex Wilson, John H. Maloney, Jason Olds, James, Noah Wiles, Paul West, Alec Doty, Illumalama, Joe Wheeler, Dougal Campbell, Craig Porter, Adam Mishkon, Aaron Luthen, Marjorie, Paul Stanton, Scott Lajewski, David Simile, Tyler Harrison, Ben Rothig, Columbo Ahmed, and Gary Swinsberg.
And a special shout out this week to Chris Clark, who facilitated, purchased, and sent seeing the opportunity to help This Week in Science with my mic issues, provided this awesome boom mic, which is now extending from another table far, far over there and hanging through the air and dropping down like I'm about to announce the opening of a boxing event. Thank you, Chris Clark. This is totally working out. Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you for all your support on Patreon. If you're interested in supporting us, you can find information at patreon.com/thisweekinscience. And also remember that you can help us out simply by telling your friends about TWIS. On next week's show, we will be doing our Love Fest because it's, of course, almost Valentine's Day. We got to get that in there. And it's also an interview. Again, we're going to be interviewing Paul Knopfler from UC Davis on his new book, GMO Sapiens, The Life-Changing Science of Designer Babies. I know it's one of Blair's favorite topics.
It's true.
And we will be broadcasting live next week online, 8 p.m. Pacific time on twis.org/live. You can watch and join our chat room, which is a lot of fun. Don't worry if you can't make it, though. You can find our past episodes at twis.org/YouTube or just at twis.org.
Yes, thank you for enjoying the show. TWIS is also available as a podcast. Just Google This Week in Science in your iTunes directory. If you've got a mobile-type device that's not an Apple-ish thing, you can look for the TWIS, TWIS #4 Droid app in the Android Marketplace. But again, anything Apple Marketplace-y, This Week in Science will bring up your favorite show.
For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes will be available on our website. That's at www.twis.org, where you can also make comments and start conversations with the hosts and other listeners.
Or you can contact us directly. Email Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminion@gmail.com, or Blair at blairbaz@twis.org. Just be sure to put TWIS, TWIS, somewhere in the subject line, or your email will be spam filtered into oblivion. You can also hit us up on the Twitter, where we are at TWIS Science, at Dr. Kiki, at JacksonFly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We'll love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that comes due in the night, please let us know.
We'll be back here next week, and we hope you'll join us again for more great science news.
And if you have learned anything from today's show, remember,
It's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. This week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth, and I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. science. This week in science. This week in science. 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 This week in science. This week in science. This week in science. 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 I've got one disclaimer, and it shouldn't be news, that what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just better understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. Jeopardy. And this week in science is coming your way. So everybody listen to everything we say. And if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma gondii. Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got a laundry list of items I want to address, from stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought, and I'll try to answer any question you've got. But how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This Week in Science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say. And if you've learned anything from the words that we've said, then please just remember it's all in your head. Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in 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 Science.
And that, my friends, is the end of another wonderful podcast hour. We're here a little bit longer. I see Dicktel. Was that Will Dicktel in the chat room? Nice to see you in there. I'm sure the interview was probably interesting to you. Yes, and next week we are not interviewing Mark Knopfler, Paul Knopfler. He's a biologist, geneticist. Thank you so much for your time, Daniel. I see you're having fun talking to people in the chat room.
Yes, yes. I've been I'm listening to the rest of the show and monitoring.
Nice.
What's going on there. So, yeah, it's very interesting. I had no idea so many people come on and comment.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The chat room is great because it's, people can talk amongst themselves and then, talk about what we're talking about, but then also just have their own conversations and we can see what they're asking or what they're saying during the show. And
yeah, and it allows us to grab them into the show on the fly, which you can't do with call-ins. Call-ins, when we originally were a radio show at a radio station and had no filter or call screener, we'd get really good phone calls. We'd get some sort of randomish kind of phone calls, and then we would also get occasional some sort of telemarketer or something who would call in and happen to catch us live on the air. But this is a really nice format where the audience is listening along to the show, commenting on the show, and then asking questions that can get pulled right from the chat room into the show. It's fun. I think the show would be missing an extra host or two even without them there.
Without them, I know. They're our extra host. Our external brain.
Yeah,
make
and when
comments that we
we've
don't
done
think.
the show live,
Yeah.
well, I mean the show's always live, but I mean when we've done it at an event where we were able to, gosh, and we gotta think there might be a way we could even figure out how to do this, where the chat room would be our backdrop, scrolling behind us. We did this in New York. I think we tried to do it 2 times. We may have only succeeded at that once, having the chat room be the backdrop for the show. But it'd be kind of interesting to figure out if we could actually get a window open with the chat room into the show at some point. That would be nice.
Yeah. Looks like
They're definitely the 4th host.
it looks like Will Dicktel may have a question for you on new carbides.
Ah, yes. Yes, so there are carbide minerals, but they form under very unusual conditions, and they're not very stable at Earth's surface conditions. They're something that's normally found in either meteorites or very deep in the Earth, like they've been brought up from the Earth's mantle.
Is it because they need lots of pressure and heat to form them?
Yes, pressure is one factor, and then another factor is also just that carbides are basically, they're compounds in which the negative ions, so in ionic compounds you've got the positive ions and the negative ions, and in a carbide the negative ion is carbon. So you don't just have carbon like graphite or carbonate, which is oxidized, so it has a higher charge. In a carbide, the charge of the carbon is low. It's negative. It's negatively charged. And that requires conditions where there's no oxygen. And so near the atmosphere or in the crust of the Earth, even in the crust of the Earth, even if you dig down a mile, there's still way too much oxygen around to be able to form something like that. You'll take your carbide and you will just transform it into a carbonate. And so yes, there are carbides, but they're generally deep in the Earth. They require the absence of oxygen. They require some pressure generally to form. And so on the Earth's surface, they're going to be very hard to find. So the places to find those would be the same kinds of places where we find diamond, actually, where shoots of magma have come up from the mantle and brought material up and exposed it to the surface of the Earth, but there hasn't been enough time yet for it to be destroyed.
And so, for Dicktel's question, like you said, they're negatively charged, and then once they're formed, though, are they fairly stable, or are they like for acid? He's saying, would they be sensitive to acid or water?
Yeah, let me think about that. It would depend a little bit on the chemical composition, but they'd probably be sensitive to acid. That would start to wash them away. The worst thing actually for it is just simply the oxygen in the atmosphere, because that will weather away the carbide very quickly, change it to carbonate, and then it will just get washed away.
So if you have a carbide bit for your for your drill, or don't they make like carbide bits for drills and for saws?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, that's.
Do you want to store them, not out in the open?
No, well, for your lifetime, it's okay.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So what I'm referring to is over geologic periods of time, over millions of years, they will get weathered away very easily. But in the short term, while you're using your drill, it's okay. They will last, and of course, yes, they're very very hard materials.
Cool.
So let's see what else. So the gym doctor says boron carbide is harder than diamond, but has no practical use. I think actually boron carbide is a little bit softer than diamond. I could be wrong about that.
Is it? Is this a thing?
But
something harder than diamond?
I don't think there's anything currently known that's harder than diamond, but there are a few things that come damn close, and boron carbide is one of them. There are some carbides that are very very hard. So, yeah, but I don't know. I mean, this person might know better than me.
I feel like California's got a good chance at finding something.
It wasn't identified on the map, though.
I know. Well, you know, that map is cursory at best. There's plenty of volcanic
You
activity.
should go dig in your backyard, Justin.
No. I'm in the wrong spot. My backyard
digging.
is. I'm in the Central Valley.
I just picture him going like this.
I'm in a sediment deep.
A sediment.
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 I am in the sentiment that my sediment
I'm
is.
I'm standing on layer upon layer of
Inferior.
sediment. Not far from here is Lassen, which was a volcanic activity area. The entire
Yes, I've been to
Sierras-
Lassen.
Yeah, the entire
It's a beautiful
Sierras
place.
Gorgeous.
The Sierras were volcanic and glacial, and then you got the big what you call it what is it, Yellowstone? That's
Yes.
which is a caldera
What's
of
it
some
called?
sorts.
Yes, there's a great deal of misunderstanding about Yellowstone, and I get asked frequently, when is Yellowstone going to blow, and and it's one of those things I think where we have trouble wrapping our heads around such enormously long periods of time, because people say, oh well, we're overdue for the next eruption of the Yellowstone supervolcano, which is true,
Yes.
which is true. But the
It
thing
could
is,
happen tomorrow or 30,000 years from now. It could be,
exactly. Yeah, and so we're talking about something with a period of hundreds of thousands of years, and we live for such a short time compared to that it would be what would be a good analogy to this? It would be a little bit like I can't think of a good analogy.
Okay, so I've got one because I'm an analogist.
Okay.
Professional analogist.
Analogous.
It would be like a fly who lives for 3 days trying to predict when the lawn was going to get cut.
Yes, that's a good, or an even better example, an even closer analogy mathematically would be a fly that lives for 3 seconds contemplating when the lawn is going to get cut.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, it could happen within our lifetimes, but in the grand scheme of things, the probability is so small that it's going to happen in your lifetime that it's not really worth worrying about.
Yeah.
So
I want to keep that method of thought for thinking about when the earthquake is going to hit the Pacific Northwest. That's
yes, I've heard about that.
That one's gonna be sooner. That one's gonna be much sooner.
Shh, quiet. I've only got a little bit of my earthquake kit put together. I still have much more work to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have one at all.
So I see a question here from Hot Rod about what chemical would work best to remove calcium buildup inside a vehicle's cooling system.
And I guessed vinegar, and I may be wrong.
It has to be copper, plastic, and aluminum friendly. So I guess that's a chemistry question. I come from a chemistry background and got into geology later, as it turns out. So yeah, my first degree was in chemistry. And actually, Justin, I think that your vinegar suggestion is a very good one. Mm-hmm. So the calcium buildup is going to be something along the lines of a calcium carbonate or something that would be dissolved by acid. So you want an acid, but not one that's so strong that it's going to dissolve the metals that are there, because of course metals are sensitive to acids too. So yeah, vinegar or some other dilute acid would probably work. But everyone do not take my pronouncements as gospel, because I know chemistry, but I don't. Yeah, I don't know cars very well. So
right. So I gave my answer not having had any background in chemistry, but living in a town that gets well water, so we get massive mineral buildup on every spigot that has any sort of drip to it. We get this huge cluster of buildup around them, and the way that we clean pipes and clear out sort of that buildup that forms in bathtubs and sinks and the like is you pour vinegar. all over it, and then you break it up.
Oh boy, there's a whole bunch more here.
People are interested. All sorts of interesting stuff.
Hey, wait.
Oh, they're talking about solid forms of carbon, and this is so few people know this, but I work at one of the places where this is very much a hot topic. Because we're working, not only looking at carbon minerals, but we're looking at new materials for energy. This is something that's done at the Carnegie Institution, and there's actually a dozen or more forms of solid carbon. There's not just diamond and graphite and coal. There's actually like over a dozen of them that have their own unique properties. And this is and I have friends that research this. So most of them, though, are not really known to the public because they're just these esoteric things that are in a few labs around the world, and we write papers about them.
Are any of them fancier looking than a diamond, or have
Diamonds are only fancy looking because of the way people polish and cut them.
Yes, but also in the way that they're distributed.
It's the diffraction.
Also in the distribution.
Yes, diffraction. So one of them actually, if you zoom in on microscopic crystals of it, does look very much like diamond and has many of the same properties of diamond. Because it actually is based on an atomic structure that's very, very similar to diamond. It's a structure where the connectivity of the carbon atoms is the same, but one part of it is just sort of rotated with respect to the other. And so the symmetry of the atomic arrangement is different, but the way that the atoms are connected that gives it its properties is very, very similar. So, and that material is called Lonsdaleite. Lonsdaleite, yes, named after a crystallographer.
So if I want a nice ring, I'll go for some Lonsdaleite.
Well, the examples of that we know about are incredibly small and very difficult to study. And actually, there's a paper that came out recently that called into question the entire existence of Lonsdaleite. They actually proposed a different explanation for the diffraction data that was observed. So, it would be too bad if it was not real. I really want for it to be real, but of course, we're going to have to examine that data and find out what the real deal is.
So, as someone who studies the minerals of the earth and, the earth as the great laboratory of creating stuff, a diamond comes out of the earth. Now we can make diamonds in a lab. People are making "quote unquote" artificial diamonds. They're real diamonds. They're just made, and they're put together in this big thing. And
many of my friends do that.
Right. So, as somebody who studies these things, do you have any kind of philosophical takeaway related to, how you think about a diamond from the earth versus one that's been constructed by people?
Yeah, well, my feeling has always been that I appreciate the natural materials more. Not that there aren't some amazing, beautiful synthetic diamonds, but and I've seen ones that are made, where I work, and they create amazing things. But I think there's something special about the natural ones because we didn't have anything to do with it. It's here we see this beautiful crystal that's clear, and looks for all the world like it's been polished up for us. And we didn't have anything to do with it. Nature made it. It was made in the bowels of the earth and got burped up. And I think there's something really special about thinking about how unique these processes are that create all of these things.
Cool. I think so too. I think it's just neat to ask people, ask people where they stand on stuff like that.
Oh, so here's a question. Strengths asked, which form of carbon will sound travel fastest through? And I'm pretty confident that the answer to that is diamond. Because it all comes back to the fact that the carbon atoms in diamond are so well bonded to each other. It's a three-dimensional framework that that's what gives it its ability to conduct heat. It's what gives it its hardness, its toughness, and that same feature, sound will travel very fast through diamond because all the carbon atoms are bonded to all of the other surrounded carbon atoms. Yeah, and so that sound is just going to go boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, I imagine.
Interesting question.
Yeah, that is an interesting question. Yeah, I imagine if you think of it in terms of, I always think of sound and the kind of like, a mirror is something when like light bounces off a mirror and any hard flat surface is not going to conduct sound through it very easily, is going to pose a problem. So any hard flat surface is going to be bouncing sound off of it more readily than it's going to be going through it. But when you start thinking of the actual structure of whatever the sound, the medium that the sound is traveling through. I know, but air, so sound travels really well through air because air molecules vibrate. So they can, they just vibrate and move all over the place, and the sound waves just move right through. I wonder. I don't know.
But yeah, in liquids and solids, sound travels even faster. So
Right.
You'd experience practically no delay. So Kevin Unique says Lonsdale was a nice Irish woman. Way to go, girl. And that's right. Yeah, Kathleen Lonsdale was an Irish crystallographer, and she solved a number of crystal structures.
Oh, awesome.
And very much influenced the field. So it's great that there's something named after. I hope that it's real. People are calling it into question, and I feel like we need a mineral named after Kathleen Lonsdale.
We totally do.
Whiskey Renegade. Sound travels better through the railroad than the dirt.
It does.
That's some old. That is some old Tonto trick right there. Putting your ear to a railroad to see when the train's coming.
I used to do that.
Really?
Where I grew up out in the country.
That seems really dangerous, Kiki.
No, you can see a train coming from super far away. The only danger.
20 seconds away.
The only danger was being bitten by a rattlesnake.
Oh God!
You didn't want to stick your head next to a plank that a rattlesnake was hiding underneath. I ordered this T-shirt. I'm so excited. My T-shirt's coming.
Right.
Ah!
Science is the new rock and roll.
It's my new T-shirt. I'm so happy. Science is the new rock and roll. Yeah. My friend put it up on Teespring.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I never got run over by a train. It's all good. It's all good.
Well, if you did, you can't tell.
Right? Thanks.
Did I ever tell you guys the Spaghetti Fingers story?
I don't know if I want to know that story.
No.
That sounds like a problem.
So we had a substitute substitute teacher.
This is already, I'm like...
Substitute teacher. Who's, I think his name was, no, I can't remember his name. I've got the wrong name. But he used
Don't tell his name on the show.
Well, it doesn't matter. He died in a bad way.
But he was hit by a train?
I think so.
What?
Actually.
No.
But he was very old, and this was very long time ago, so his very old was probably like Depression era, very old, right? And one of the things he would teach kids is the proper way to jump a train. And he was always pointing out the gap between the trains. You want to make sure if the train is going from your left to your right that you're on the left part of the gap and not the right part of the gap. Because if you grab onto the ladder on the right part and your momentum hasn't got you clung on, you can swing and then fall between the trains Whereas if you're on the trailing car, if your momentum didn't get you clinging onto the train, you'll hit the side of the train and bounce off. And the way he learned that is because he watched a guy grab on to the back end of a car and fall between. His hands landed on the rail, and as he pulled back, he had spaghetti fingers.
Nope. See, I knew I didn't want to know
He
that.
didn't want to know the story. But I must say...
Now wait, I need clarification on what spaghetti fingers means.
No.
So what happened was the guy who grabbed onto the back end of a car instead of the front end of a car, the momentum of the train was going faster than he predicted, so he got spun around and his hands came down on the rail itself, and the train proceeded to cross his digits.
Nope.
And when he pulled up, he had fingers that were akin to strings of spaghetti hanging out of his hands.
Fantastic.
That's terrible. I don't need to
Now,
know things
as
like
bad
that.
advice, perhaps, as this is to encourage or teach children that it's possible to jump a train to go from point A to point B, we also happen to be in a town that a train runneth through. And I became at an age where I wanted to go to the next town, but didn't have the capacity to have my own personal transport. And with some friendly, peer persuasion, we decided that we would hop a train for the next town. And I had this knowledge of the proper way to do it, and nobody got hurt.
So, by the way, what town are you guys based in?
There's 3 different right now. So I'm in Davis, California, which is UC Davis is.
That's the OG TWIS location.
This is where the origination. Kiki did some study here. This is the radio station that we originated from. Was KDVS out of UC Davis, in the basement of Lower Freeborn Hall. And then, of course, now Kiki has then since moved to several different cities, landing finally in Portland, where she is currently broadcasting from.
Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon, not the Maine, where it would be even colder. And then Blair is, I think, in Sweden. I'm not really sure.
I wish I knew how to say yes in
Yeah?
yeah, I guess it's yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm in San Francisco.
Yeah, Svenska.
I'm in San
Francisco.
Yeah.
It starts with an S. I knew that much.
Yes, Super Bowl City, as it were.
I bet you're loving that right now.
So I applied for a faculty position at UC Davis.
Oh, you should have gotten it.
Oh, cool.
So, well, I don't know yet. The jury is still out.
So you have applied.
So, well,
and you're
I've applied, and I'm waiting to hear back.
So Daniel, here's the only 2 things you need to know about Davis.
Okay.
Wherever you live
It's
now,
good to know.
wherever you live now, it will cost twice as much. You'll have half the square footage. But
I
not
doubt that.
necessarily true.
What city?
I live in Washington D.C.
You know, actually,
It's one of the most expensive places in the country.
Yes, it is. You're right. You may find it though amazingly similar for a town that is surrounded by ag land. We are darn near San Francisco pricing.
No.
Wow.
Oh yes, I've been real estate shopping here. I understand.
Yes, but have you been real estate shopping in San Francisco lately? Because that's drastically different than it was even 2 months ago.
Yeah, I understand. San Francisco is going through.
The other thing about
evolution of
Davis
price
that's
hikes.
interesting is that there are more bicycles than people.
Yes. Wait. Yes. We're actually the highest bicycling percentage of commuters in the nation. We also can boast the fact that we have almost no crime, and the highest per capita of PhDs under one city. So,
Wow.
the
Is it the highest per capita of PhDs? I mean,
yes, it is, and it's partly because for decades upon decades we had a zero growth.
right, there's not many people.
in the town, and
It's a wonderful small town. It's a small city. It's
only exists because of the university. So all of the real estate, what we're worth living in, is filled up with PhDs. Which
I
is also
love Davis.
no,
Davis has
it's a nice town. We have nice
Spring and-
farmers markets.
spring and summer.
Not
The
much-
farmers market's
Not
amazing.
much of a nightlife, but I'd gladly sacrifice that for not having like crime.
Well, I hope that I get the faculty position in geochemistry there. That would
Yeah,
be nice.
that'd be cool. I'll cheer you on from afar. Go, go, go.
Thanks.
Fingers crossed.
So I've been following, they've been talking about the speed of sound and light in various materials. And somebody was asking about materials with a higher refractive index than diamond. And diamond does have a very high refractive index, and that's why you get the sparkly colors in the cut diamonds. And the gem doctor says that there are minerals with a higher refractive index, and that's correct. There are a few minerals. There's not a lot, but there's a few minerals that have a higher refractive index. I'm wondering. I suspect that the gem doctor is actually a professional in this field. This person seems to know. I'm interested to know, Gem Doctor, if you're still here listening, what is your profession? Because it sounds like we may run in the same circles.
And please tell me, or at
Do
least,
I know you is your question.
Yeah.
or at least confirm to my wife that cubic zirconium is actually more beautiful and refractive or reflective than diamonds themselves.
That's true. Cubic zirconia does have a bit of a higher. It's pretty similar though.
Yes, that's all I needed to know. Now I
It's
can.
all good. It's all you need is the sparkles.
And just so you know, it's cubic zirconia and not zirconium.
Oh, I had no idea. I'll have to. I did not get you cubic zirconium. This I can attest to. Regardless of what your appraiser. And why do you take a ring to appraiser right after you receive? I have no idea why it goes immediately to getting quantified in dollars. But
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay, yeah, the gem doctor repairs damaged gems
Is a
for
gem.
Vancouver jewelry industry.
He's
Okay, so
literally
he
a
works in the
doctor.
jewelry. Yes.
Yeah, literally a gem doctor.
Yes.
I love
Very
that.
cool.
That's great.
That's cool. What a job. That is some precision work to be able to do
I
that.
bet so.
Wow. Yeah, I know a few people who work in jewelry and like the little tiny stuff they do, the little tiny tools and the
Yep.
So the gem doctor asks, "Do you have any minerals named after you?" I'm assuming that he or she is directing that to me.
I think Strength was asking the gem doctor if the gem
Oh,
doctor
strength.
had
Oh,
any.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
But I like the question itself. You can't name one after yourself based on the rules.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, that's
you
right.
have
You
to
can't.
have a buddy
Mhm.
who you're like.
That's
"Come on,
accomplice, yes.
You can make the discovery. I know I found it, but I'll let you be the discoverer if you make me the one.
Nah.
Now am I cheating already?
Leave it to Justin.
Now, sadly, there, my last name is Hummer, and sadly, there is already a mineral named Hummerite.
Oh.
And it is not named after me. It's named after the mine in which it's found, and so I do not get to have my own Hummerite. But if somebody decides to name one after me, you can amend it, and so there can be a Dan Hummerite.
Aha.
So I'm hoping that happens at some point.
At some point, you're like, come on.
Somebody I know can do that.
But doesn't Justinite sort of just have a ring to it, like a natural ring, like it?
I like it.
should be?
So the gem doctor, Justin, is saying synthetic rutile is brighter than your cubic zirconia.
Yes, yeah. Rutile is
Rutile.
titanium oxide. It's titanium oxide, and And yes, it is one of the ones that has a higher refractive index than diamond, and if you can get it in its pure form and its clear form, which it doesn't occur in nature very often, but you can do it synthetically, then yes, it's very shiny because it's got that high refractive index.
Ooh, that is pretty. Look at that. Here, I'll show you some pictures, Justin.
I'm looking. Oh wait, I ended up with a bunch of Pokemon. Hang on, I got the wrong.
Look, shiny pictures. Looks like shiny.
Oh
pictures.
yes.
Lots of shiny synthetic rutile.
Yeah. Okay.
That's pretty.
That is.
Yeah,
Right.
I actually, during grad school, I studied the crystallization of rutile.
Oh, cool.
Was my project.
So did you start with some of the powders that they're showing here? We've got...
No, actually, what I did, it was very interesting what I did. It was a very cool project. What we wanted to know is how mineral crystals start to form, before there's any crystal. So we had solutions, we had water solutions that had titanium dissolved in them. And we would heat them up to induce crystallization, and it reacts with the water that surrounds it and forms titanium oxide. And so we were trying to take measurements of the very beginning of this process to figure out, how do atoms actually come together and start to form crystals, and what arrangement will they adopt depending on what the conditions are. So yeah, that was my first research project, and it was a really fun one. It made me want to continue.
That's good. That's what you want with your first research project. You don't want to be like, no, never mind.
Right.
So hang on a second here. I'm taking connectivity issues. On the eBay, I'm finding a very vastly different looking group of rutile gemstones. Should they be that different looking?
Well, in what way are they different?
Hang on.
Yeah, can we do a screen share?
There's some of them are clear, some of them are green, some of them are yellow.
Do a screen share, Justin?
They're all claiming. Hang on.
What did you search for? Do you want me to do it for you?
Yeah. Can you do it? I don't have my screen share thing available.
What did you search for? What was it?
Rutile gemstone.
I shall do this as well.
This may be a heavily abused term based on my initial result here.
I just lost my screen. Where'd that go?
Rutilated quartz? Rutilated.
Oh, okay. I see. I see. Yeah.
So it's a mix of a bunch of different kinds of things. Quartz.
Yeah. So
Pretty.
So here's they are really pretty. So here's what's going on here. When we talk about rutile as a gemstone, I'm talking about crystals that are pure rutile, that are pure titanium oxide. And what you just put on the screen there that you're sharing are crystals. Those are actually, they're not entirely rutile, they're quartz crystals.
They're so pretty.
Yeah.
So those are quartz crystals, but what's happened is as those crystals were growing, there was also titanium around that was crystallizing rutile. And so as it's forming these needle-like crystals of rutile that have a little bit of other stuff in them that makes them opaque. So that's why they look shiny in there. So you've got these needles that grew within a quartz crystal as the quartz crystal was growing. And you can see there, you see the one that has, it looks like a star, like it's crossing in 3 different directions. So the reason that that's happening is that the crystal structure of quartz is hexagonal. So there are places in the structure that are easier for the rutile to grow, but there's going to be, since the material is hexagonal, there's 6 different offshoots, 6 different directions in which it can do that to an equal extent because quartz has hexagonal symmetry. And so the rutile crystals are growing in those different directions that are the easiest for it to grow, and that's what's forming those stars. So it's all controlled by symmetry.
That's cool. Those are so pretty. But if you wanted to look for gemstones for synthetic, you'd look for synthetic rutile, right? That's what I looked for
you would
before.
look for synthetic rutile or synthetic cubic zirconia, which is a little different.
Is that what you wanted, Justin?
Oh, I'm just trying to get examples.
So pretty. Such pretty stuff. Stop the screen sharing.
So Strengths makes a good point. He says they may, oh wait, who is it that said that? Oh no, Wiz Mike makes a good point. Diamonds are over-glorified by the industry, and that is definitely true. I mean, don't get me wrong. Diamonds are a beautiful gemstone. They're very cool, and I don't want to detract from their appreciation. But relative to how rare they actually are, and how valuable they would be on an open market, they are overvalued simply because De Beers basically has a monopoly on them.
Yeah,
they basically own more than 95% of the world's market of diamonds. So, yeah, it's true, unfortunately, but they're still a nice gemstone.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's this massive kind of expectation related to diamonds that's cultural, so there would need to be this huge paradigm shift where people aren't expecting diamonds for certain things, which I think there is a little bit of a shift happening already, especially there's a lot of people who don't want diamond engagement rings now, but that's still definitely the main expectation. And it's kind of like, even if we find out the X-rays aren't harmful, people are still going to want to put on their lead vest because otherwise, it's just expected. They're not comfortable with a replacement idea. So the diamonds are kind of this very set in stone idea for something that it's going to take a long time for people to stop expecting diamonds for that one thing.
Places, although, Daniel, Davis is a town actually where people may prefer something that isn't a diamond because of all of the connotations of blood diamonds and the way they're extracted. All the PhDs, all the conscientious, informed people.
I can tell you this: whenever I get married, my wife is going to have a gemstone that is not diamond. It is going to be one of the unique, rare ones. Yeah. and I will go up there and find it.
That's cool.
And maybe
you're like, I haven't proposed yet. I haven't proposed yet, sweetie, because I haven't found the mineral that's right yet.
Hey, any day now, I'm sure I'll be able to pop the question.
I really want something that's perfect, and I know it's out there. The statistics have come in. It's out there.
It might be Tanzania.
Right.
I might have to get it from Tanzania, but I'm gonna go get it.
So just sit tight.
You say that as a joke, but one of the most beautiful gemstones, actually, that's become very rare, but it's very beautiful, is tanzanite. That is from a mine in Tanzania.
Tanzanite. I've heard of tanzanite.
Yes, yeah, it's a beautiful violet or deep blue color.
Oh wow!
It's really, really nice.
Ooh,
yeah,
I like it.
I'd take that.
That's great.
I'll screen share that one. Here, everybody, look how pretty it is. It's all blue, violet.
I like it.
How gorgeous. See, there are so many. But this is a super rare gem.
It's becoming more and more rare because the mine that was producing it was closed down and flooded, and so they mined a bunch of material, but now there's less and less material on the market. It's getting harder to find, and the price is going up because there's no new material being mined. It was the whole operation was shut down.
Oh my gosh!
And I don't really know the backstory on why that was done because it seems like they had a good thing going.
But
But yeah, that's what's happening
They
with,
flooded
with
it.
tanzanite. And oh, Whiskey Renegade asks, "Oh Dan, what mineral is the best for my girlfriend?" Well,
All right, tell us a little bit about her.
Important.
Yeah, we need to know
yes. Tell us about your girlfriend. If she travels a lot, if she's always gone, then you need to get her one of the minerals that easily degrades
Oh,
over time. But hey, if she will be there and the relationship will last a long time, then you can get a diamond or
Right,
or one of
diamonds
the
are
ones that
forever.
lasts even long. That's right. Well, one of the jokes in my field is that no, diamonds are not forever. Diamonds are only 20 million years or so.
so
Because
this
it's
is only for
technically
20 million years, baby. Then deal's off.
right. Because
little bit,
technically
yeah,
diamonds
a
are
long
not
time.
stable. Diamonds are unstable at Earth surface conditions.
Wow.
Diamonds do not want to exist. They want to convert back to graphite. But the trouble is the atoms of diamond are so well locked in, they're so well bonded to each other that the amount that it takes millions of years in order for that transformation to happen. So yeah, if any of you that out there that have a diamond ring, if your diamond is trying to break down, but it's having a real hard time doing it.
That's funny. You can just say you have carbon trapped temporarily in this form. You'll
Yeah.
keep it that way for as long as you live. We've trapped carbon in a special cage.
Yep, that's right.
And otherwise, you can just hand them a pencil. Like, hey, it's there.
It's all in there.
It's just organized different. I was gonna get you a diamond, but you know, it's the same.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The gem doctor says tanzanite is too soft for everyday use. And yeah, tanzanite is softer than some of the more common gemstones. It will still last quite a while, but you do have to be a little more careful with it. It's so beautiful, though.
That's funny. Gem Doctor is saying De Beers has never controlled the diamond industry and has never had a presence in the U.S. until the cartel was broken by the U.S. government. That day, diamonds almost doubled in cost.
Well, I don't know the history of it. I know. I mean, they have quite a hold on the market now, but but maybe this person knows more about the backstory of that. So Einsteinium, who wants to? Why do they want to know about Einsteinium?
Is Einsteinium? Einsteinium is one of the newer, heavier ones.
It's one of the heavy elements. Yes, it's not one of the very new ones. It's one of the actinides.
It's but it's a heavy element.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, did I save that? That's good. Going through things. Let's see. Blair, I saw an email, you wanted to set up an interview potentially with some people.
Yeah, it's a really interesting study going on at Stanford where they're using technology. I think they did part of it with Google Glass, actually, with
cool.
kids on the spectrum, trying to identify really quickly whether a kid is on the autism spectrum or if they have ADHD or none of the above. And they're actually about to get published. It's pretty cool. And they have a call out right now for subjects. So they wanted to chat with us if possible. So.
Yeah, we have an interview next week, but then, we're open after that, so I can...
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Later in the month, if they're up for that.
Great. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I could maybe even
and then we
go there. It's not super far, or they could come here. We could see.
Yeah.
These are all options.
Very many options, yes.
Yeah, so GORD, yeah, of course it's a spectrum, but yeah, it's where on the spectrum. So that's really what it's about. They want to be able to diagnose and identify children very early so they can get them on a productive learning track, because the earlier that you identify it, especially with autism-related disorders, if you identify it very early, then even when they're toddlers, you can start teaching them how to kind of work around the roadblocks that they have, and they're much more likely to become like fully functional citizens. And so I think that has a lot to do with it. And they even did it, part of this study, I don't know if it was a different study, but they actually did hormone testing from fecal samples, which I actually found fascinating, that they were actually able to find information out about the kids that way. It's pretty interesting.
Wow. Was there a chemical signature?
I don't know. We'll have to ask them. I only knew that they were carrying out the study, and I don't actually know what the results of the study was. I didn't even know they had the results yet, and it sounds like they have them. So that will be fascinating to hear. I'm interested to hear why they thought there would be too. It's not a link I necessarily would have expected. But.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, I'm thinking I am going to head on out of here. Where'd Justin go?
I don't know.
He's
You have
gone.
to wait till he gets back now.
What?
You can't just disappear while he's waiting. There, see, there he
That
is.
would be rude.
I'm like, sure, I'm just gonna leave. Oh, okay, what did identity port for? This is why I'm broke. The nebula opal. That is pretty. Do you guys see this link that he put?
Whoa!
I'm going to screenshot that one.
Einsteinium for celebrity
Oh,
relationships. Only last 472 days.
Oh, I get it now. I get it now. Whiskey Renegade has little faith in the power of those rings. Einsteinium rings. Let's see. He also asked, what about the very new ones? Any interesting stuff about them? I'm assuming he means the new elements. Do you suppose?
Oh, yeah, probably the new elements.
Yeah.
The ones that are very, very, very short-lived.
Yes. Well, the exciting thing about those is that actually, if they get a different isotope of element 118, the one that they got is still very, very short-lived. But there's this theory in nuclear physics that with certain numbers of protons combined with certain numbers of neutrons, that they will form closed shells in the same way that the electrons can form closed shells and become more stable. And so they think that there's this region out there amongst the heavy elements where they actually start to become a little more stable again. And so if we can get a version of element 118 with a different number of neutrons, we might actually be able to let it stick around a little longer for us to be able to actually do experiments with it.
To study it, yeah.
Yeah, to do real chemistry with it. So,
Cool.
yeah, so that would be a very exciting thing. So that's sort of what they're looking for with those experiments.
Yeah, what Identity 4 says there, the islands of stability. Yeah. We can actually land on an island and stay there.
Yeah, that would be very fun. I'm a huge periodic table aficionado, and so that would be my dream come true, is to have new elements that I have a collection of them right here, actually, all the elements in pure form.
Cool.
And yeah, I'd love to have samples of super heavy elements that you can actually put in a vial and keep for a while.
That would be amazing. How long? You're like, I have this for 2 days. No.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I got the we have the what's his name? Theodore, what's his name, who did the book The Elements?
Oh yeah, Theodore Gray. Mm-hmm.
Theodore Gray. Yeah. We have that book, and then we also have flashcards that I'm going to start putting down in front of my son. What's this element? What's this element?
Oh, so Strengths reports that Islands of Stability is the name of my thrash metal band. And furthermore, Identity 4 says Islands of Stability is what my dad calls his pot plants.
Oh my God, you people crack me up.
So I guess there are multiple useful Islands of Stability.
Oh, many, yes. Many, many, many. My island of stability at this moment, I believe, is my bed.
I was going to say mine is, I thought you were going to say this show, but okay.
This show. I'm going to jump from this island to another island. Different. They're just different islands. I'm island
What a
hopping.
cushiony, warm island.
Yeah.
And tomorrow at the same bat time, same bat channel as usual will be the Science Island Minion Hangout. Usually takes place around 8 o'clock on a Thursday on the Googles.
That's right. Science Island for the minions of TWIS to discuss more science. Yeah, and we will be back next week.
For the TWIS Love Fest.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's time to start looking for love. And
For
all the
love
sciencey
stories.
places.
We got to look for all the science love. Good idea. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Daniel, thank you so much again for joining us. This was super
Yeah,
fun.
well, thank
And
you.
also-
This was a lot of fun. It was my first podcast. So.
Yeah,
cool.
and Daniel, also kudos for hanging out for the after show. Not every guest does, and it was a blast. So
Yeah, I love people's questions and comments here.
and I hope
There's a lot of knowledgeable people.
I hope UC Davis does come through for you. We'll go and share if there's a brewery.
We will see.
Yeah. There's a brewery some friends of mine are opening called 3 Mile, which used to be the radius from the campus. You couldn't sell any liquor for 3 miles from a radius of the campus.
That's
Really?
not true. Not anymore.
Not
Oh,
anymore, no. This was a
geologists
long-
would not be happy with that.
No, this was a long time ago. But they've opened a brewery with tap room called 3 Mile Brewing Company in the heart, like within blocks of the campus. So
Awesome.
if you come to town, we'll go down there and I'll get you a pint.
All right. Well, I will let you know if I come for an interview. I hope that it happens.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, everyone. We will see you next week. Have a great science-y weekend and a week in between. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.